All right, welcome back to my Was a EDR Home project. We decided to narrow in on this vulnerable web server VM6 because it's one of our most valuable assets and because it had a high number of alerts sounding off from our visualization. So we're going to go in, and the first thing we notice is this web server 400 error code. We got a lot of them. We know from our experience that they're doing something wrong or they're requesting something that's not there, almost as if this person or whoever this person is trying to access it or whatever they're doing, it almost looks like they don't know what they're doing. They're just kind of exploring. Also, I'm looking at the timing. Well, look at that. They're all milliseconds within each other. So that's going to tell me this more looks like some type of a scripted attack because it's going quickly. So let's kind of dig in and see. And look at that. Right off the bat, we get a source IP. We know from this address that this is a local internal address. And so that is concerning because it doesn't really make sense that an internal user is trying a bunch of different HTTP GET requests and is getting an error back. So that means that someone inside of our organization doesn't really know what this server is. Whatever they're doing, they're internally just prodding and throwing, it looks like, anything they can at this thing. I'm just going to copy and paste that right away. It's a GET request. It is trying, and look at that. The resource that it's trying to get to is the login. Looks like the agent name is just the Mozilla. And this is actually catching my eye. And here's why. I know internally on all our machines, we do not use Mozilla. Our Windows machines all use Microsoft Edge or Chrome. And same thing with our Linux systems. So this is something concerning. The most important thing that we figured out from this log, and we're going to go through and kind of look again some more, is we got an IP address that's internal. And look at that. We see right from the MITRE attack that this does appear to be some type of web attack. Name address. This is interesting. This time they did a GET request in a different way. Status. I think this is a funny one because what normal user would be looking for a server status report from the outside? I mean, you would log in. It's that same .178.54. This is kind of neat. We can see them all kind of in a row. And look, it's login, JSP, status. Now, why would someone request that same thing over and over and over again? Obviously, vulnerability scanning, so some reconnaissance. So maybe that's why we got some of those different URLs they were accessing to kind of figure out. Again, so it looks like we have a web attack going on to this web server. Let's determine and see if they were successful, though. Let's look for an event ID for logins or some type of log or user created. Actually, that's usually a way to tell if there was some persistence, process injection. So that makes me a little worried because that might indicate that they were successful. Were able to exploit something. But yeah, see, we see this again, privilege escalation, initial access. So it has me worried. We need to find out, were they actually able to get on? Oh, wow, we see cross-site scripting attempt as well. So it wasn't just that brute force attack they were trying. We should probably narrow that down. Data.win.system.event ID is, let's just do a couple, is one of, let's go. We know, let's see, 4720. We'll do 4732. Maybe we'll do 4648. Multiple logons. We'll do a 4634 because, let's see, sometimes I know from my previous experience that sometimes if a password is guessed correctly, if it's a script, they'll log on and log right back off really quickly. 4624 because that's a successful logon. And the answer is no. So that's good. I feel confident there were no logins. We can also do the same thing we did for the last one. We can see and search for any network connections, and maybe there was something like that. So let's take a look real fast. We know the network connection is 3, and no. So it doesn't look like any suspicious network connections were made during that time. So again, just to kind of recap, we saw absolutely there was some type of multiple different types of attacks on our web server. It does not look like they were successful. We do not think they were successful because we just looked and see if there were any successful logons. There were not. And then we looked to see if there were any network connections started by some possible malware, and there were not. So as of now, I feel confident about a couple things. I feel confident that this web server was the target of an attack. And I feel confident that there has been no successful privilege escalation or persistence. One, of course, right now, like you got to, I'm got to resist the temptation that I'm sure every SOC analyst encounters, which is I want to dive into this, especially when you just see something really cool like this. Oh wow, look at this, a PHP CGI bin vulnerability attempt. I mean, that seems really cool. But of course, the thing we have to resist here is that our job isn't to look at cool stuff. Even though SQL injection is super duper cool, um, it's just not our job. So we can move on from